The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the Kensington Grand Ballroom, and 300 people turned to look at my husband's face as it drained of color. My name is Vanessa Cole. I'm 33 years old, and my own husband had just called me just a housewife in front of his entire company, never once imagining that the woman he married had been signing his paycheck for the last 11 months. Welcome back to Cherry Revenge Tales. Drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you're watching from tonight. And if you believe in calm, quiet justice, 1 week earlier, I sat at my in-laws' dining table, listening to my husband's family perform their favorite show, The Greatness of the Whitmores. Daniel's about to make partner, his mother Carol announced, cutting her lamb with surgical precision. I had learned, over 4 years of marriage, that the Whitmores mistook my silence for agreement, and my composure for emptiness. They had no idea I ran the Finance and Acquisitions division of AITA Capital Partners, the private equity fund that 6 months prior had quietly acquired a 62% controlling stake in Whitmore and Associates after the firm's founding partner defaulted on a catastrophic bridge loan. They had no idea I sat on the board. They had no idea that when the firm's payroll ran on the first of every month, my signature, under my maiden name Vanessa Reyes, was the one that released it. I never corrected him. I had learned, a long time ago, that some people only respect what they're forced to see. Daniel, his father Robert said, refilling his own glass, "You'll need a wife at the partner gala who can hold a conversation with the board. Someone polished. You understand what I'm saying." Daniel glanced at me and said nothing. That was the moment I understood exactly where I stood in that family, not beside him, but beneath the table, useful only for the things I quietly provided and never got credit for. The escalation came 4 days later, on a Tuesday evening, when Daniel arrived home, holding a folder full of gala seating charts and a face full of tension. "I need you to sign this," he said, sliding a document across the kitchen island. It was a post-nuptial agreement, drafted, I noted, by his father's attorney, restructuring our jointly held assets so that in the event of a divorce, the townhouse, my investment accounts, and half of my AITA capital equity would revert entirely to him. Dad thinks it's smart. It's not a formality. It's you giving away my property. His jaw tightened. You don't even work a real job. What exactly do you think you're protecting? I didn't raise my voice. I never do. I think I'm protecting what's mine, I said, and slid the folder back across the counter, unsigned. That was when the mask came off. Not all at once, but in pieces, the way it always does with people who've never been told no. "You are unbelievable," he snapped. "I am about to become partner at one of the top firms in this city. Do you know how that looks?" "I know how it looks when a man asks his wife to give up everything she owns the same week he makes partner," I said. "That's the part I'd worry about." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. In 4 years, I had never spoken to him that way. Not because I lacked the words, but because I'd never needed them before. Quiet refusal, I'd learned, unsettles people far more than anger does. Anger can be met with anger. Calm has nowhere for their fury to land. What I didn't tell him was that 2 days earlier, AITA Capital's board had scheduled an emergency shareholder announcement to take place at Whitmore and Associates' annual partner gala in front of every senior partner, every associate, every spouse. My managing director had asked if I wanted to deliver it personally, given my majority stake oversight of the account. I had said yes. That Thursday morning, before the gala, I sat at my vanity and fastened the silver-banded smartwatch I wore every day. I opened the discreet voice memo app, tucked 3 folders deep, the one AITA's compliance department required all board members to carry when meeting with portfolio companies. I pressed record. A small red dot blinked once at the edge of the screen. I had recorded countless routine board conversations this way. Tonight, I had a feeling it would capture something else entirely. The Kensington Grand Ballroom glittered with chandeliers and self-congratulation. Whitmore and Associates had rented the entire top floor to celebrate its record year and its incoming partner class. Daniel stood near the stage in his tailored tuxedo, glowing under the attention of men twice his age, while I stood near the bar in a simple black dress, exactly where he'd told me to stand, out of the way. Carol approached first, champagne in hand. "Vanessa, I almost didn't recognize you without an apron." She laughed like it was a joke between friends. "It wasn't. You look lovely tonight, Carol," I said. "Daniel tells us you two have been having disagreements," she said, lowering her voice with false concern. Robert joined us, whiskey in hand, and clapped Daniel on the back as he arrived. "There he is, Whitmore's future, everyone." A small crowd of partners gathered, raising glasses. Daniel beamed, drunk on champagne and validation, and that's when he made his mistake. "I want to thank my family," he said to the small circle around him, "for believing in me when it mattered. And I want to thank—" He glanced toward me, and something ugly flickered across his face. The kind of look a man gets when he wants to feel bigger by making someone else smaller. A ripple of polite, uncomfortable laughter moved through the small crowd. Carol smiled into her glass. Priya didn't even look up from her phone. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I simply smiled and said, "That's an interesting thing to say to the person overseeing your firm's shareholder agreement." Daniel laughed, too loudly. "What are you talking about?" Before I could answer, the ballroom's house lights dimmed for the evening's final scheduled item, the shareholder announcement I had arranged 3 days earlier. A senior associate at the podium cleared his throat and announced that, per this quarter's compliance requirements, Astor Capital Partners would be presenting a brief update regarding its controlling stake in Whitmore and Associates. The screen behind the stage lit up with the Astor Capital logo. Then, beneath it, my name, Vanessa Reyes, Managing Board Member, Astor Capital Partners, Signing Authority, Whitmore and Associates Payroll and Operations. I set down my glass and walked to the podium. The room had gone very quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight to it. The room had gone very quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight to it. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady, unhurried. "For those who don't know me, my name is Vanessa Reyes. Some of you know me by my married name, Vanessa Whitmore, the housewife." A few uncomfortable laughs, quickly swallowed. 6 months ago, Astor Capital acquired a controlling stake in this firm after its founding partner defaulted on a $9 million bridge loan. Astor Capital will be conducting a routine review of this firm's incoming partner class over the next 30 days, including any recent internal financial arrangements that may present a conflict of interest. I let that sit in the room for exactly 3 seconds. I look forward to a thorough process. The polite applause that followed was thin and confused, the sound of a room recalibrating in real time. That was when the ticking clock started, though nobody but me knew it yet. My managing director had given me a firm deadline. Any conflict of interest disclosure had to be filed with the firm's ethics committee before midnight, or the review would default to the following fiscal quarter, delaying consequences by 3 months. I had exactly 40 minutes. Robert reached me first, his composure cracking. "This is a joke. Tell them this is some kind of joke, Vanessa." "It's not a joke," I said calmly. "It's on file. I can send you the documentation." "You've been lying to this family for 4 years, Carol hissed, no longer bothering to keep her voice down. "I never lied," I said. "You never asked." Daniel grabbed my arm, too hard, right there in front of the partners and their spouses. "You're trying to humiliate me. Tonight, of all nights. I'm trying to file a disclosure before midnight," I said. Gently, "The post-nuptial agreement your father drafted this week, transferring my Astor equity to you 2 days before a shareholder review. That's a conflict of interest, Daniel. I recorded our conversation about it, per Astor's compliance policy. I have 31 minutes left to file it." The color left his face entirely. That's when the firm's outside compliance officer, a soft-spoken man named Mr. Alderman, who I'd requested attend the gala specifically for this purpose, stepped forward with a tablet in hand. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Mrs. Whitmore, Ms. Reyes," he corrected himself. "I have the disclosure form ready for your signature." "Mrs. Whitmore, given the timing of the post-nuptial request relative to the announced review, the Ethics Committee will need a statement from you and your father regarding the circumstances of its drafting." "This is insane," Robert said, his voice climbing. "We built this firm." "You defaulted on a $9 million loan," Mr. Alderman said, flat and unbothered, checking his watch. "Astor Capital owns 62% of what you built." 26 minutes, Ms. Reyes. I signed the disclosure at a cocktail table while 300 guests watched Daniel's family unravel in real time. Priya, pale, stepped back from her brother as if proximity itself might be contagious. Daniel stood frozen, his hands opening and closing at his sides, a partner's title dissolving in front of him before he'd even signed the paperwork for it. "You did this on purpose," he finally said to me, his voice cracking. "You waited. You let me humiliate myself." "You didn't need my help for that," I said quietly. "You did that part all on your own. I just happened to be standing here with a microphone when it counted." Mr. Alderman confirmed the four is myself. Behind him, Robert was shouting at Daniel that this was exactly why he'd never trusted him with anything important, and Carol was insisting she'd known about none of it, when everyone at that table had heard her instruct me not to make a scene an hour earlier. Daniel turned back to me one last time, desperate now, all the venom gone from his voice. "Vanessa, please, we can fix this." I looked at him for a long moment, not with anger, because I had never let myself carry that into the room, just with the calm certainty of someone who finally understood exactly what she was worth. It's not easy being married to someone with real ambition, alderman for his time, and walked out of the Kensington Grand Ballroom alone, exactly the way I'd walked into that marriage 4 years earlier. Underestimated, and completely fine with it. Here's what I've learned, and what I hope you carry with you tonight. The people who diminish you rarely do it because you're small. They do it because some part of them senses exactly how much you're carrying, and it's easier to call it nothing than to admit they depend on it. You don't owe anyone a performance of smallness to keep the peace. And never let someone's contempt for your silence convince you that you don't know exactly what you're worth. Thank you so much for watching this Cherry Revenge Tales story tonight. If it resonated with you, please like and subscribe so you never miss the next one. And if you haven't already, let us know in the comments where you're watching from.